Hi, Melissa Brody.
We're back.
You're back. So today we're going to share another message with our tutors, this time about place values. And it refers specifically, I think we're going to look at it today, specific to addition and subtraction. And it is, give us a little background on it.
Yeah, so most of the tutors out there probably grew up what we call stacking the numbers and learning how to borrow or carry over.
So
Some schools,
like 20 minus 10. So,
right
yeah.
here, let me show you. I'll share my whiteboard. Oh, you need to allow me to.
Okay.
But instead of stacking, now you can break it apart into place values. So like there's a ones place value, a tens place value, a hundreds, and so on. To pretty much prove why the stacking works. And I don't think it's as beneficial to learn how to stack first later, like junior high does. I'm sure still teach it because it is quicker. But as a younger age, I think it's really beneficial to teach addition or subtraction using place value or breaking apart a number so students understand why. For instance, if you had 60 and you were subtracting 15, this is how we typically would see it when we were younger. So this is like what I'm referring to as stacking. A lot of students, when they're first learning to do this, will flip-flop these two numbers and say, oh, okay, 5 minus 0 is 5, 6 minus 1 is 5. Here's your answer. And so that's when stacking gets really tricky for them. And so instead of just memorizing this operation or how to use borrowing or carrying over, it's a lot more successful. I'm going to cross that out. It's a lot more successful writing or rewriting, because you might still see worksheets with stacking this way, horizontally, and saying, okay, I know
build on what you just said real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the tutors, like you just said, you named here on the left of the screen one of the possible downfalls of doing it that way, which is not to say, like you just alluded to, if a student is being directed to do it that way, don't tell them, no, don't do it that way.
Right.
Help them through. But what you're talking about is another one of those things where if we have some time with the kids and we have to, they didn't bring any homework and we have to essentially come up with a lesson, or if this is how they're being taught in their school, we want to understand as well. And like you did in previous conversations, you and I, this focuses more on concept than memorizing strategy, which I like a lot.
Yes, like why this works that we learned when we were younger.
Right.
Which would actually give you 45.
Right.
Okay, so when you write it out horizontally, you can look at the place values. So like we see 0 subtract 5, you can't do that. So let's do 60 subtract 10 first. 60 subtract 10 is 50. Okay, and now I need to subtract this 5. What I did in my head, which you'd have to explain to the students, is I broke apart 15. I know 15 is 10 and 5, right? Because 5 is in the ones place value, that digit equals 5. But since the digit 1 is in the tens place, that digit equals 10. So I broke 15 apart into 10 and 5. And I first did 60 subtract 10 to get me to 50. And then I need to subtract that 5. And that would get me to 45.
It's awesome.
So that proves why this like operation of stacking works, but I think is more conceptual to a younger child than crossing this out. Like why, if you come over here and you cross out 6 and make a 5, it's like, well, why am I doing that? Oh, because over here I'm subtracting 10 from the 60.
Right. No, you're right. And I think, and I would even, certainly it makes sense to onboard concepts first, especially with younger people.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say even like adults could benefit from revisiting this, older students and even adults. This is really good. And I would add that sometimes, when the numbers become bigger and more complicated, having the stacking strategy to fall back on is often helpful for people. like you said, to have an understanding of why it works the way it does, to have this conceptual understanding is far more helpful. And I would add that, we talk about life lessons. Why does this stuff matter? When I move through the world, I always just sort of intuitively have used the concept idea, you know what I mean, that you've explained to me. When I'm, when I'm trying to, when I'm navigating my spending or whatever it might be, I'm not in the grocery store with the stacking.
Right.
So this makes a lot of sense to me, Melissa. Thank you.
And you mentioned, let me clear this for a second. You mentioned bigger numbers. So
yeah,
especially for younger students, let's say I have 165 minus 42. That can look very intimidating.
Yeah.
But not when you break it down into place value.
Right.
So if we look at the ones, 5 minus 2 is 3. I know that 6 minus 4 is 2, but since I'm working with the tens place value, I need to tack on that 0 because it's really 60 minus 40 is 20.
Right.
And then I've got this.
You drop 100. The 1 in the hundreds, but right.
Yep. So here, and I actually have to put these all together now. So here's my answer, 123. And what we actually call, look for a highlighter, what we actually call this is expanded form, which just ended up happening. But 123, you can expand it into place value. 3 is in the ones, 20 is the tens, and then 100. So really, just another way to break it apart, because some students look at this and say, I can't do that. I don't know the answer to that. But when you break it down for them, it can make it a lot easier.
Well, this is really, really good. Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.